I spent 7 years, 3 months, and 2 days in a cage for a crime I didn't commit, framed by the man who stood beside me at my wedding. Now I'm free, and the people who buried me are about to learn what it means to be truly haunted. I spent most of my time behind bars, either locked up alone or getting patched up in the infirmary. My name's Jack Morrison, and if you've never been inside, let me tell you, prison's a place where guys like me, even with a bit of martial arts training, are nothing special. Doesn't matter if you know how to throw a punch when 5 guys who've been fighting their whole lives come at you in a hallway. Still, somehow I made it through. I got jumped, cut, beat down, more times than I can count, but I never let them finish me. I fought just enough to survive. I became a punching bag for guys with too much hate and too little to lose. I lost track of how many people came after me. I stopped counting. They took everything from me, everything but one thing, this burning drive inside me that wouldn't die. I wanted revenge. I needed it. I wasn't guilty. I swear to you I was innocent. But it didn't matter back then. For 7 years, 3 months, and 2 days, yeah, I remember the exact count, I lived each day not knowing if I'd make it to the next. Every morning I opened my eyes in that cell, I asked myself if today would be it. And every night I survived, I marked it off in my head, one more step toward getting out. Toward justice. Real justice. When I finally walked through those prison gates, I felt no joy. Just relief. No one stood waiting for me, and thank God for that. If someone had been out there, I don't doubt it would have been with a blade or a bullet. I kept my head down and walked away fast. I knew my old life couldn't be reclaimed, but one thing was clear. I had to make sure my daughter, Ellie, was protected. The authorities had to let my so-called family know I was out. I didn't want to scare her, but I knew the people around her needed to be cautious. Because I knew what Brian Dalton was capable of. Brian, the guy who used to be like a brother to me. My best friend. The guy who smiled in my face while planting knives in my back. He was the real reason I lost everything. Brian used his money, charm, and slick words to spin lies that painted me as a monster. He whispered those lies into the ears of people I trusted, people I taught, people I cared for. He even got a few of my own students to testify against me, saying things that never happened. Things I wouldn't have done even in my worst moments. And then, to twist the knife deeper, he married my wife, Lisa, barely weeks after the ink dried on the divorce papers. Lisa and I had been together 15 years. 15 years. But when the trial came, she sat by my accuser's side like I was nothing to her. I begged her, pleaded for her to believe me. But none of it mattered. She chose him. Even now that I'm free, I don't feel safe. Truth is, I feel more exposed out here than I ever did inside. Back in that courtroom, I made it known, clear as day, that Brian would regret what he did to me. I shouted it right in front of the judge. Maybe that was stupid. But it was real. And now, I know he's probably thinking the same thing I am, that I'm a threat. I had no choice but to vanish, to start moving before he could find me. Because I know he'd do whatever it takes to keep me silent. Whatever it takes to finish what he started. Then life, being the strange, cruel thing it is, handed me a break. Some screw-up in the system meant Brian and Lisa didn't find out I was released until 3 days after I walked out. That window, that was my chance. And I took it. Anger was pulsing through me. I felt it in my bones. But even in all that rage, I had to admit something. The hell I went through inside those walls had done me one unexpected favor. The beatings I took, the scars they left, they'd changed how I looked. My face had once been easy to recognize, but now? Not so much. My beard had grown in thick, my hair hung long past my ears, and the damage to my hands from a kitchen accident, burned so bad they wiped out my fingerprints, meant the old Jack Morrison wasn't so easy to track anymore. The system that buried me would now have a hard time even identifying me. The first thing I did once I got out was head to a Goodwill store. I needed to look the part. Something weather-appropriate, plain, nothing memorable. After that, I turned my attention to finding a place to stay. Not a hotel. Not a friend's couch. That wasn't my world anymore. I had to disappear. Blend in. And the best place to do that? Among the people most overlooked. Those without homes, names, or past. The homeless. Luckily, or maybe unluckily depending on how you look at it, the city was neck-deep in a strange sort of kindness war. Churches and outreach groups were bending over backward to one-up each other with donations, food, and services. That meant finding a hot meal was the least of my worries. I picked it up fast. Who served what, which places had the best soup, which days to show up early. But shelter? That was tougher. Places like the Salvation Army had time limits. Some gave you 3 nights, others a week. After that, you were on your own. I needed something more permanent, more hidden. My time in the military came in handy. I scouted out a spot in one of the bigger city parks, a patch of overgrowth where an old oleander bush spread wide like a natural dome. Inside, I wove layers of plastic bags between the branches, creating a makeshift shield against rain and cold. It wasn't perfect, but it was quiet. And mine. Still, peace didn't come easy. I had to fend off a few thugs looking to shake me down. But the skills I'd learned, both from the army and from surviving prison, came in handy. Word got around pretty quick. Jack wasn't someone you wanted to mess with. Then came that night. It started with noise, muffled shouting, the kind of scuffle that could go south fast. I thought about ignoring it. Not my fight. But the sounds didn't let up. I couldn't tune it out. So I stepped out of my shelter and followed the noise toward the bridge. Under the flickering streetlight, I saw a massive man being swarmed by a group of guys. Despite being outnumbered, he wasn't backing down. He kept saying over and over, "Please stop. I don't want to hurt you." But they weren't listening. I stepped forward and shouted, "It's okay to fight back. They're trying to hurt you." The big guy turned to look at me. Just for a second. Then he nodded and moved like a storm, calm, controlled, devastating. He dropped them with brutal precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation. When the last one hit the ground and didn't get up, I rushed over. "Hey, your jacket's torn up, Harvey, right? You're hurt. We need to get that looked at." He winced, clutching his side, but shook his head hard. "No hospital," he muttered, his voice tight and anxious. He wasn't just in pain, he was scared. And something about that fear told me his story was a lot like mine. "I don't want a shot," Harvey mumbled, pulling away a bit as we stood outside the hospital entrance. "I get it," I told him gently. "But what if I go in with you? Would that make it easier?" Harvey looked at me, tired and bleeding, but searching my face like he was looking for something solid. "You'd stay with me?" "Of course I would," I said without thinking twice. I took off the scarf around my neck and wrapped it tightly over the worst of his wound, trying to slow the bleeding. Then, together, we walked into the emergency room. The staff barely blinked. They were used to seeing people walk in straight from the streets, beat up, stabbed, broken. They moved fast and admitted Harvey right away. And I stayed. I didn't leave his side. Something about that night bonded us. We started as strangers, but it didn't stay that way. We talked while he healed, slowly at first, then more. In time, Harvey became the closest thing I had to a real friend since the world had turned its back on me. One day, sitting outside a community center over lukewarm coffee, Harvey told me he still had access to his old bank account. It was a surprise. Most guys in his shoes had lost everything. But he said his friend Ben had helped him set it up before things fell apart. When I asked if Ben was still around, his face changed. "No," he said, looking down. "He was mugged a few months ago. Didn't make it. But something about it didn't sit right with me. Ben was helping Harvey. He was tech-savvy. He was digging into records for him. And if there was one person who had something to lose if any of that got out, it was Brian Dalton." A sick feeling twisted in my stomach. I couldn't shake the idea that maybe Ben hadn't just been mugged. Maybe Brian had found out about the digging and made sure it stopped. Permanently. I had to find that file. If Ben had uncovered something, anything, I needed to get to it before it was gone for good. And then, like clockwork, the next piece of my story dropped right into my lap. It was Italian night at the Salvation Army. The Methodist church down the street was doing their monthly outreach dinner. Spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, salad, and someone had even made homemade ice cream. Not bad, considering it was a bunch of volunteers trying to feed the forgotten. I sat down across from Harvey and told him the plan. I needed to get closer to him, maybe bunk together again like back in county. So I used the Spanish I'd sharpened over nearly a decade inside, street slang, phrases I'd picked up from cellmates, to convince the shelter staff to let us room together again. Things felt like they were starting to move. That is, until the next twist came knocking. Literally. My ex-wife Lisa showed up at the downtown precinct. "I heard you picked up a group of homeless guys tonight," she said to the officer at the front desk. "I'm looking for my ex-husband. It's urgent." She described me in detail. Even pointed out the scars. The cigarette burns. The damage prison had done to my hands. "Not so pretty now, huh?" I muttered when they brought me in to talk to her. "Jack Morrison, your loving husband, would have said I carved these into my own flesh just for sympathy." I held up my hands, twisted, tough, disfigured from years of fights and hard labor. "This," I said, "is what happens when you get marked as a target in prison. Almost 8 years. And you stood by Brian." She flinched. Couldn't even look me in the eye. "Tell me the truth, Lisa. Did he do it alone or were you part of it?" She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her hands trembled. Her lips moved like she wanted to say something but nothing came out. You're lying, I said, soft but sharp. I still know you. I know that face. I know when you're covering. Then I saw it, the hesitation, the fear. But not of me. Get rid of him, she said to the officer. If he stays near this, there's no deal. I stepped in. No. If you want anything from me, here's what we're gonna do. Hand your cell phone to the officer. He'll give it to Harvey in my cell. Have Harvey call your number. Put it on speaker. If Brian leaves Harvey's sight, I'll know. She didn't like it. Neither did Brian. But they agreed. Once it was done, once Harvey had the phone and the call was live, I turned to Lisa. Now, I said, finally standing tall, here's my condition. I'm not sure what exactly brought Lisa to that office that day. Maybe guilt. Maybe she was just desperate to understand what really happened. Either way, she made her way to the place Brian avoided like the plague, the old office of Ben Woods. The receptionist greeted her politely, though distant, and repeated what I'd already been told months earlier. The file's been archived, she said with that dismissive tone people use when they want you to leave. But Lisa didn't back down. I need that file, she told her. And I'm asking you to get it yourself. The receptionist shook her head. Only the original client can access archived records. And even if I wanted to help, I don't have time to go digging. Then, almost like she was thinking out loud, she added, funny though, you're not the only one who's come asking about it. That got Lisa's attention. Eventually, after more pressing and possibly a bit of cash under the table, the woman gave in. She disappeared into a back room. When she returned, she was carrying a large manila envelope, sealed and thick. Jack Morrison was printed clearly across the front. There's a check inside, she said flatly. Also a flash drive and a signed affidavit. But only Mr. Morrison can sign for the check. My boss knows about that part and I need his signature on the receipt. She paused, lowering her voice just a little. My boss doesn't know about the rest. So take the envelope. Just leave the check. Lisa nodded, took what she could and walked out, gripping that folder like it was on fire. Maybe it was. Back at a youth center a few days later, one of the therapists was gently talking to a young girl. I wasn't there, but I later heard what was said. You're brave, the counselor told her. Would you like to see Mr. Morrison get the help he needs? The girl just looked down, unsure. I bet your parents have told you to do things you didn't want to do before, right? Things they said were for your own good, even if you didn't believe them at the time. The girl nodded. And later, maybe you saw it really was the right thing? Another small nod. It's like that with grown-ups too. Mr. Morrison doesn't think he needs help. But maybe we can help him see that he does. Would you help us with that? They had started showing Lisa the videos, edited interviews with the girls from the case, part of what Ben had been compiling before he died. The footage was devastating. One by one they spoke about the pressure, the lies, the coaching. Lisa argued at first. She didn't want to believe what she was hearing. She insisted her husband, me, couldn't have done those things. But then Carol's video came on. And that broke her. She fell apart watching it, shaking, sobbing. And when the screen went dark, Brian's voice filled the room. He told her what he and his girlfriend had witnessed between me and Carol, back when Lisa had been away. He told her that he had only come forward out of duty, out of love for her. And just like that, she was done with me. I was dead to her. Buried without a chance to speak for myself. But I hadn't died. Not yet. And now she held in her hands the key to what I'd lost. My truth, my name, my life. And for the first time in years, I had a feeling she was finally beginning to question what she thought she knew. I hope it was worth it, I said, my voice low but steady. Whatever it was you were trying to get out of all this, I hope you got it. Brian just stared at me. No guilt. No apology. Just that same smug look that had haunted me since the trial. I've always wondered, I continued. What did I ever do to you that was so unforgivable? What made you hate me enough to turn my wife against me? To force my daughter to lie? To make the world think I was a monster? He leaned in slightly, like he'd been waiting years to say it. You want the truth? You stole her from me. I blinked. Lisa? She was mine before you even knew her, he said bitterly. We had a fight, just one, and you used that little crack to wedge yourself in and take her. I was going to marry her, Jack. She was supposed to be mine. And you took that from me. You didn't just take a woman, you took my life. Every single time I was around you and Lisa, smiling at the dinner table or making small talk, I was plotting. Waiting. I could barely breathe. All that time, and this was his motive? You ruined my life because of a crush? I asked. To me, he said, it was everything. Right then, the officer interrupted to let me know the DA had more than enough to work with now. Between the flash drive, the recordings, the written statements Lisa had brought in, their case against Brian was solid. But overturning my conviction? That was going to be a whole new fight. I didn't care. As long as it was finally out there. The truth. Then I slipped. When I heard her name mentioned, I couldn't help it. "She's in the room with your daughter," someone said. I couldn't stop myself. "Wait, how is she? Ellie, is she okay?" One of the nurses in the hallway answered softly, "Far as I know, she's doing all right. She asked about you earlier." That hit me like a punch to the chest. I'd spent all these years wondering if she even thought about me. Now I knew. And then, there she was. She didn't say much at first. Just walked in, pale and tired, hospital bracelet still on her wrist. "Dad," she said, and my heart almost gave out right there. "You and Mom can be as angry at each other as you want. I won't stop you. You can yell, curse, cry, I'll take it all if it helps. But what I won't accept is not being in your life anymore. I'm your daughter. And I'm back." Her voice cracked. "I need to go lie down. But I'll be back tomorrow for my daily dose of apologies." She turned at the door. "Oh, and Mom says the receptionist at Ben Wood's old office has something for you. Left behind money or something." I didn't know what to say. My heart was a mess. My thoughts were a storm. Later Lisa came back. It was quieter now. "I didn't start seeing Brian until after we divorced," she said. "But I had already given up on you by then." "Yeah," I muttered. "You chose to believe a smooth-talking liar over your own husband. You didn't just doubt me, you handed me over." "I wanted to believe him," she said, barely above a whisper. "He made it easy. And I was scared." I nodded slowly. "Then that's how you were unfaithful. Not in your body, in your heart. You gave up on me the moment things got hard." She winced like the words were knives. "You're right," she said. "I'll never forgive myself for that. He manipulated me and I let him. I cried so many nights after you were gone. And none of it brought you back." For a long moment we just sat in silence. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, Do you know anything about gardening?" I looked at her sideways. "What?" She shrugged, eyes red. "I don't know. Just trying to change the subject. Maybe plant something new." "I mean, I can plant things, pull weeds, spread fertilizer," I told Lisa as we walked slowly through the back garden, "but I have no idea what's supposed to grow when." She smiled, actually smiled. "You know what? I'd love to help you figure that out." Ellie chimed in from behind us, kicking a small rock off the path. "And where can I get a puppy?" Lisa blinked. "A puppy?" "Yeah. Have you ever been to an animal shelter?" I asked her gently. Ellie shook her head. "What's that?" "It's where dogs and cats wait to be adopted," Lisa said. "Some of them have had a rough life, but they're just looking for someone to take them home." Ellie's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I was supposed to be adopted too. But no one wanted me." My heart twisted. Lisa knelt down beside her. "If you want to go, we'd be glad to take you. How about this weekend? Can we go now?" Lisa let out a quiet chuckle and looked up at me. "She's got your timing." Later that day, as we sat on the porch of what Harvey had started calling the garden home, Lisa leaned over and said quietly, "My mom passed not long ago. I'm inheriting a decent amount. It's all been frozen for now because of the divorce filings, but when it clears, I've already retired." I raised an eyebrow. "Won't Brian get half?" She shook her head. "Not according to my attorney. The estate hasn't gone through probate yet. And since I filed for divorce before anything transferred, he's out." Then she smiled, sly and amused. "Guess my next husband gets half." I groaned. "You're unbelievable." We headed back to the house where Harvey was already getting ready for dinner, whistling in the hallway like nothing could shake him. But I wasn't so sure I was up for a big family gathering. Something was off. "Harvey," I said slowly, "I'm not sure I'm coming." "I want to go," he said cheerful. "It's gonna be nice." "Yeah," I muttered. "Nice." Later, Lisa went to the bathroom to check on me. She knocked first, called my name, but there was no answer. She panicked, called Harvey, and he kicked the door open. Empty. The window was wide open, curtain blowing in the breeze. Lisa bolted for the front door. The driveway was quiet. The car was gone. She drove like lightning toward the garden house, praying I had just needed a breather. But when she got there and saw no sign of me, her heart dropped. That's when she noticed the note taped to the front door. "Lisa, I appreciate that you tried. I really do. But I need to find something for myself that can't be handed back by anyone else. Not even you. Please don't come looking for me. Not yet." My first stop was the one place I thought I'd never willingly go back to, a prison. Not mine this time. Someone else's. Tyrone was waiting behind that glass. One of the men who'd made my life inside a waking nightmare. Word had gotten around that I'd been cleared. The rumors were true, I had been innocent all along. Before I could even say a word, Tyrone spoke up. "Hey man, I'm sorry for what we did. I know everyone says they're innocent in here, but I wish we could take it back. All of it." I leaned forward quiet. "Funny you should say that," I said. "How'd you like to receive a carton of cigarettes every week for the rest of your sentence?" His eyes went wide. "You serious?" "Dead serious. Some say the best revenge is living well. I'm not sure about that. But maybe it's living real. Living free." The nightmares came often. And they came hard. Sometimes I'd wake up gasping, fists clenched, drenched in sweat. Other times, it wasn't until the woman beside me screamed that I even realized I'd been shouting in my sleep. "I'm leaving," she snapped one night, pulling a hoodie over her head. "You scared the life out of me. You were screaming like someone was killing you." I was dreaming," I muttered. "You can't just hit me," she said, backing away. "Get me a taxi." I nodded, already reaching for my phone. I threw on some clothes, called the cab, and handed her some extra cash while she threw her things into a bag. Before stepping out the door, she looked back. "You've got a good body," she said. "But you're too crazy for me. You need to talk to someone. Seriously." I stood there, holding the door open, listening to her footsteps fade. Strange, isn't it? Taking life advice from someone I'd paid to be there. But she wasn't wrong. I tried sleeping pills for a while. Mixed them with drinks on rough nights. Sometimes it worked. Mostly it didn't. One morning, a counselor at the local clinic leaned forward and told me something that stuck. "Jack, your brain's trying to unpack a lot. The pain you went through, the betrayals, the beatings, the isolation, it doesn't just go away. It's like your mind needs to burn through a certain number of nightmares before it lets you heal." I nodded but said nothing. She continued, "What I want you to try is this. Every time you wake up from one of those dreams, I want you to thank God. Seriously. Say, that's one less nightmare I'll have to suffer through on my way to getting better. Can you do that?" I didn't believe it. Not really. But I told her I'd try. And over time I did. By then, the only person who knew how to reach me was my attorney. Even then, he only had the P.O. box address in Grecia. He called one morning with news that felt like something out of a dream. "They're making a movie about your story," he said. "A full-length feature." I almost laughed. "You're kidding." "I'm not. There's real money behind it. A script, a director, everything." Apparently, the producers were worried the real story might seem too dark for audiences to believe. Too brutal. Too raw. They wanted to soften some of it but still stay close to the truth. "Would you come back for the premiere?" he asked. I hesitated. "I'll think about it," I said. "Maybe that'll be a good time." I did go back. There were parties, pictures, interviews. People asking questions they could never understand the answers to. People telling me how inspiring my story was. But underneath all that attention was a strange calm I hadn't felt in years. Like maybe the storm had finally passed. After the whirlwind, I drove out to see Harvey. It had been a while, but some things never change. He greeted me with a bear hug that nearly cracked my ribs. He introduced me to his girlfriend, Sally, a petite woman with bright eyes and a calm presence. She wasn't even half Harvey's size, but she had a quiet strength about her. You could see it in how she looked at him. She grounded him. "She's the best," Harvey grinned. "I love my job, man. I get dirty, I work hard, and when I walk through that door, boom, Sally makes me strip down so I don't drag the mud in." He laughed. "Can't complain." That night, as we sat on his back porch with beers in hand and the sun dipping low, I told him about the nightmares. About what the counselor had said. "You really think that works?" he asked. "Sometimes," I said. "Sometimes it doesn't." There was a long silence. Then he said something I never expected. "You ever think it takes a while before heaven hears your prayers?" I looked over at him. He wasn't joking. I nodded. "Yeah. I think maybe heaven's got a long waiting list." He raised his bottle toward me. "Well, here's to being heard. Eventually." And in that moment it felt like maybe, just maybe, we were. "I've got a lot of faith in you," Harvey said one night as we watched the stars fade into the soft haze of sunrise. "I really believe that whatever it takes to get your prayers answered, it's already in motion." His words caught me off guard. I didn't respond right away. "Thanks," I finally said. "That actually helps more than you know. Oh, by the way," he added, "remember my cousin I mentioned? The one with the health issue? Yeah, the one who couldn't go? Harvey nodded. It got worse. He could barely pee, let alone live a normal life. Said it felt like hell. Man, I winced. That's rough. Don't worry, Harvey said with a shrug. Docs are on it now. He'll be all right. Something about that conversation shifted my mood. I left Harvey's place feeling lighter, not just because of the prayers or the stories, but because, for once, I didn't feel like dragging the past behind me. That night, we sat around with a few folks from the crew and watched the final cut of the movie. Someone asked me if revenge had been worth it. I took a slow sip of my beer. Only if you do it right, I said with a half smile. They didn't know what I meant, but they cheered anyway. Another round, another toast. But deep down I was realizing something else. The weight of revenge, it didn't hold me like it used to. Especially not against Lisa and Ellie. Strangely enough, hearing that Brian had developed a serious medical condition, one he likely wouldn't recover from, dulled the edge of my anger. May he rot in hell, I said under my breath. But I didn't feel fire anymore. Just, The movie was a huge hit, except in my hometown. They hated it. Didn't like how they were portrayed. Claimed it was an unfair picture of people who did the best they could. But I knew better. They crucified me without hesitation. Now they were mad the world saw them for who they really were. That's when I got a message from Carol. Wonder what your next little drama will be, she wrote. I get that we deserve some of what's coming, but just screw you, Dad. I sat with those words for a while. Not because they hurt, but because of what they stirred. I wasn't angry at her, not really. What got to me was the idea that someone else might think they had the right to come after her or Lisa. That was my pain to deal with. My history. Anyone else crossing that line? That was war. So I booked a flight. Returned to my hometown. My lawyer gave me a few updates. Lisa was still living in the old house, and Carol had moved into a small place nearby with her son Jeremy. I wasn't sure what I expected. Closure? An apology? Maybe just a sign that they were getting by. Instead, I found something else. Got any recommendations for schools? I asked Carol when we finally sat down. She looked at me suspiciously. Oh really? What's with the sudden generosity? Trying to play nice after everything? I guess, I said with a shrug. Call it an attack of responsibility. I've been working with this therapist. She's helped me a lot. Helped me deal with the nightmares, helped me realize I've still got a life ahead of me. Carol still didn't trust it. Not completely. But she was willing to listen. Jeremy had been enrolled in a bilingual preschool. He was fitting in fast. Carol had been terrified at first. New language, new routines, but watching him run into her arms each afternoon, bubbling with energy and confidence, had changed her outlook. She'd started tutoring herself, picking up Spanish, helping others learn English. Watching her try, it humbled me. And for the first time, I didn't see my daughter as the girl who testified against me. I saw her as a mother. As someone trying, just like me, to put something broken back together. Maybe that's what healing looks like. Not perfection. Just people showing up, trying again. Trying to grow something new. Carol had started spending more time with Lisa, asking questions about how to repair things. How to rebuild trust. How to show love without forcing it. I love you, she told me one night. And I know I owe you more than I can ever repay. Thank you for everything you've done, for all of us. This place, it's home now. Not long after that, Lisa and I met with Dr. Perez again. She was glad to finally meet Lisa after hearing so many stories from me over the years. At first she said Lisa seemed sincere, truly sorry. Genuinely trying to do right by me. But as the conversation unfolded, Dr. Perez began to sense something deeper. She gently challenged Lisa, pushing her to see the scale of what had happened. You have no real idea of the horror he lived through, she said. Of how deep that pain went. And how much your absence, the loss of your belief in him, amplified every second of that suffering. Lisa sat there in silence. Then she began to cry. I don't think I can ever make this right, she said. There's no fixing this. No way I can ask you to forgive me or pretend we could ever be anything close to husband and wife again. She took a breath, eyes red, voice steady. I've been thinking about this for a long time. And this session confirmed it for me. Jack, I love you. But I think I need to let you go. So that you can find someone new. Someone who hasn't hurt you. Later that afternoon, I overheard Carol talking to Jeremy as they packed a few bags. Mom told us about her decision, she said. I know she wanted so badly to make things right with you. And I understand that maybe she never really could. I just hope someday you don't regret not making it a little easier for her to be forgiven. She looked at me directly. And I know I wouldn't even still be in your life if it weren't for Jeremy. And I'm okay with that. Really. I just want you to know, we'd like to stay. That's okay. We love it here. And I'm still planning to be part of whatever you're building. It wasn't a plea. It was a promise. Later, in another session, Dr. Perez pushed a little harder. Do you think you enjoyed it? She asked. The suffering? The pain? I frowned. No. Of course not. I think you might have, she said. Not consciously. But as a defense mechanism. You got so used to struggling in prison, facing a new war every day, that if no one else was hurting you, you found a way to hurt yourself. You've lived in survival mode for so long, you've forgotten how to just live. I sat in silence. And she added one final thing. You have to forgive your tormentors, Jack. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. That evening, one of the groundskeepers, an older man named Señor Alvarez, walked up to me after dinner. Señor, he said, if that job you mentioned is still open, I would like to apply. And just like that, I knew. It was time to forgive. I found Lisa outside near the garden the next day. She was helping Carol plant something small, something new. I don't know, I said casually. Would your services happen to include companionship? Lisa looked up, blinking. Then she smiled. Only if we can be together regularly. I think that could be arranged, I said. How much would you charge? She stepped closer. Just a corner of your heart. A tiny one. Enough space for me to sit still. I nodded. Come in, I said. Let me introduce you to the family. We walked inside together where Jeremy was building something out of blocks and Carol was laughing at something on the stove. And just like that, we were whole. Not perfect, not even all forgiven, but whole.